long
Yep.
distance.
And that's why I don't call it.
Good
And
old
that's why I
Reaganomics.
still call it National Airport.
Exactly.
Period.
Look,
I
black
never-
people. When people come to town and they say, "I'm flying into
Reagan."
I
I'm
said,
like,
no.
which?
I said, you need to know, black people in D.C. call it national.
Hello, 811 crew. We are back in the house. Your boy Jay Turner, along with my man
Ulysses Glenn, Slugger.
Sluggerific in the house. And you know, we like to wax about all things relative to people 50 and over. Yeah, that's right. Wax. See,
Wax
you
on,
got your
wax off.
right. You have your
Wax
white
on,
right,
wax
right.
off.
Show me wax the car.
Wax
no,
on,
see,
wax
you
off.
have we have the whiteboard of privilege for you, and we have words of pronunciation and
But wax
exposure from me. See, see, you know everything except what you don't know, and clearly what you don't know.
So what
about
does
is-
wax on mean?
Well, it's a verb where you're waxing philosophical. It means that you can move effortlessly from one topic to the next, which is what we do on the 811 crew. That said,
Wax, as in slide. You can slide to
You
one
can slide-
topic.
is that what you're trying to
well,
say?
no,
Is it
wax,
metaphor?
wax. No, literally, when you wax philosophical, or you, it means that your mood goes to some different place or some different topic or some different mood.
So what did the man mean when in the movie when he said wax on, wax off? What did he mean?
That's a different type of wax. That is a chore.
No,
But wax. Oh, I assure you that
No.
Mr. Miyagi that
He
was
said
a
wax
chore.
on, wax-
That
it
was a
mo-
chore.
It was a move.
Clearly,
that he
you
did.
never had to wax the car.
No, I did, but that, it was a
Nah,
move. But I
yeah.
was like wax on. I just wanted to see if we,
Anyway, you know what? We are talking
Thomas
about
Jefferson.
now. Look, we are all off topic because actually we are swinging towards a different topic: politics.
Oh yes.
And I got to tell you, like, what you don't know about the 811 crew, folks, is that Slugger and I love political science. You know,
Yes.
we are very interested. I mean, one of the reasons why we hope you will listen to us is, besides the fact that we are the unofficial source for all things cool and dope for people over 50, is that
Facts.
we can talk about a bunch of different things. And you'll find that on the show that we will wax about different subjects, from politics to
I'm gonna start using that
race to
word.
children, etc. And today we're going to talk about politics because when we were talking about this episode and putting it together, and we definitely wanted to talk about, race and racial tension, Black Lives Matter, etc. But bigger than that, we started thinking, man, it's not just racial tension. Like, there's political tension. You have the January 6th insurrection. It's there were folks of color that were amongst those insurrectionists. So we started to ask ourselves, man, is the racial part of the political, what is really driving discomfort in America?
Well, when you look at it from the two political points of views, and you're right, there were people of color, Hispanic, Black, whatever of color at the insurrection, and you realize.
I mean, that dude, Proud Boy, it's like Eric Jimenez, or
Yeah,
something
I'm
like Gutierrez or
yeah, I'm
something.
like,
I was like, wait a minute,
I'm like,
he's
dude,
not from Montana.
I'm like, dude, you're barely here. Like, you might have made, like, I can't believe this. Like,
Right.
Like, they don't want you here.
Or I don't know. Maybe they do.
I don't. When I saw Trump throwing the toilet paper to the people when he was over there, I was like, wow.
No, he actually thought he was playing basketball. It was like he thought he was Steph Curry.
I'm like, he was
It's like, whoa.
But it's interesting when with politics. What I don't understand is people that vote against themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you one of the examples is when and I've voted Republican for different things, but what I didn't understand is now when I see or when you see women voting Republican and this person might be able to have put someone on the Supreme Court that's going to change what you can do. So when I see these women now marching, and I'm like, wait a minute, you voted for it. Not that you can't vote Republican, but you have to know, or Democrat, whatever your party is, but why would you vote against yourself? That's like me voting for, it's like, hey, let's bring back slavery.
Well,
No,
wait a minute.
I'm
Now
not.
let me ask you this. Could you see, you said that it was very interesting that you've voted Republican in some ways. We know that you're from Ohio, and this is the type of thing that people in Ohio do. That red can just get on you. Just,
actually,
wait a minute. I'm just one thing now. Could you ever see yourself as a Republican? Do you? I mean, you've grown up. You got the wall of privilege. Wait a minute now. It's a lot of similarities between you. I mean, you've said very little blue Democratic things.
I have a good reason. I have a good answer for that. So, I think I'm financially or fiscally Republican. I'm socially Democratic. And the other thing is, with Democrats, one of the examples is, if you give a Democrat $100, he's going to give $1 to everything, to all the organizations. If you give $100 to a Republican, they're going to put it in one subject matter.
Fist instead of fingers.
Yeah. So, and I do think a lot of the programs that Democrats have done, even though they're talked about, if you have people that have been successful from it, it may, as long as, you have at least 25% of the people have been successful from it, these programs, the government has done their due diligence. Whereas you look at Republicans, they're like, well, this is, right now we're only into this and that's it. We don't care about it.
Well, you know what? I really think that one of the great things about our political system is that things can change. We know from studying history, right? AP history with Dr. Heller, in my case, my favorite class in high school. Not that you wanted to know that, but it's
Jason, what was your favorite subject in high school?
American history.
I took government.
And what we know in American history is that, back in the day, the Democrats were the racist Dixiecrats. Those are the ones who were interested in keeping slavery and in maintaining Jim Crow laws. All of that was fun. But that was Democrats back in the day, and Republicans was the party of Lincoln, freed the slaves, etc. So, what do you think happened? I mean, is it possible if we see poorer coal mining white men going Republican, then what would it take for blacks to maybe think of themselves as Republican?
Well, there's two things. One thing you said, there's the 1980s, 1990s, early 2000 Republicans are different than now.
How so? How
because
you say that?
It would happen
because Jim Jordan is alive and well in Ohio.
What would happen? You start having the Tea Party, and no one talks about the Tea Party anymore.
Okay.
The Tea Party has now become the Republican Party. So as the older Republicans die or leave Congress or leave politics, they're now being replaced with Tea Party, and
they were always more radicalized to the right.
Yeah, and there was such a smaller population, but once, and I think the Tea Party became radicalized when Obama came in, because then it was able to say, well, it became more racial as well. You added race to it.
Right.
So I don't see anything wrong with the Republican, with a lot of their views, with the things they write on paper versus what they do are where I tend to have a problem. I will, when I lived in Maryland, I voted for Michael Steele. I actually wrote him a letter.
That's right. A Republican.
Yeah, he actually wrote me back. I thought he was a great guy. When he became over the Republican Party, is when I thought he might have needed some medication or go therapy. And now he's back, and you're like, wait.
But he's more like Democratic now. It's like after Trump moved him left. I thought that he.
Well, but he was around when he was totally against Obama. And when Trump first came in, something happened. I can't remember what happened. Why him and Trump
maybe
fell out.
He was crazy and couldn't justify it. I always felt like Michael Steele was really more of a moderate Republican. He's more like a Hogan to me type of Republican. Somebody that is more moderate. And I'm not from Maryland because I'm a Washington D.C. person, and we don't have the right to vote. We are taxed, but we have no vote. We have a representative, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's a wonderful public servant, but she gets to vote in the committee. But when it comes down to the actual votes that happen, we're not there. But I digress.
But I never thought, to be honest, I didn't think D.C. was ever really supposed to have one.
Well, now that's a different topic. Whether
Right.
that's a matter of constitutional intention, and we're not going to discuss that on this show.
We're not gonna,
okay,
we're not going to discuss.
let's keep it. And we're not going to discuss that on this show because that they did not mean to keep all of us black folk unvoted, and even white folk too, and everybody now. They did not mean to keep 800,000 people without a vote. I don't believe that, but anyway. It was just supposed to be a small little just city that it was all the federal government operation, almost like the Pentagon, except in a city. That was the original intent. Now it wasn't ever meant to be like a major city.
The Pentagon was part of D.C. Virginia took their part back.
Yeah, that's right.
Virginia took their part back. But I do have black Republican
who's a Republican? Do you
friends.
know, what Republicans do you know? Are they proud Republicans?
Oh,
Are
yeah.
they in the closet Republicans? I don't see a lot of black folk, people of color coming out saying, I'm Republican. Maybe Cubans in Miami, but I don't know.
Living here, you won't see them out wearing, but if I go home or if I look at friends of mine on Facebook, I have black friends who are Republican. I do know a few black Republicans that live here in D.C.
Do you think that they are about the Trump agenda, or do you feel like they are hearkening to some other? Are they on a different drum?
The ones that are here are old school Republicans. I think the ones that are in the Midwest tend to be disenfranchised. So and these tend to be men. So they are disenfranchised with. It's a weird It's almost as if they don't know, because when you actually ask them, it's like you're voting against yourself, and that's the thing. Like I'm not saying I wouldn't vote Republican again, but I'm not going to vote against someone whose values are totally against mine. Even voting Democratic, I don't agree with everything that the Democrats do.
Well, I get it. I really feel, if I can jump in, I really feel like though that one thing that we can see is that history always repeats itself, and the same way that black folk and colored folk used to be Republican, and the more right was Democratic, I could see it quickly reverting back, to that prism, because and let me tell you, at the end of the day, in a democracy, what rules is who gets the most votes. And so what that means is, if for whatever reason the shift could happen, just like with white folks, where a group of the coal mining folks, a lot of those folks that are more, that saw themselves traditionally as Democratic, moved Republican. Well, if a working class black folks moved and joined that constituency, well, that's what's called in Israel and England a coalition. And I like when coalitions get together, because the whole notion of a coalition is you have different sides that come together for a reason of mutual advancement, and that's what we should be having. Right now, it's just I'm in my bucket, you're in my bucket, and nothing happens.
And so when I first moved to D.C., I covered Capitol Hill and the White House.
Okay.
And that was when Biden, it was Clinton, and then the Bushes, but people actually, like the Democrats and Republicans, actually talked to each other.
Yes,
and it was about trying.
Politics.
Even though there was a lot of stuff about I'll vote for your thing if you vote for mine.
Yeah.
But it was a lot more trying to get something done instead of just wanting to get credit for something. The Republicans, I want to get credit, and your stuff you're stupid, and it's like you don't have to argue and fight with each other. And I think, just what you were kind of saying, Jason, is I think to make a good, company, a good group, you have to have different people and different opinions.
Yeah.
But you also have to be able to sit around the table and talk respectfully. And I need to hear and understand your opinion, even if I don't believe in it. To get to a good place, it's going to take a little of you, a little of you, a little of you. And if everybody were just to come together for the greater good, I think we could get stuff done. But everybody just wants to get credit.
But here, can I take? But imagine this, okay? When I'm going to say just respectfully, almost every year I've gone to the Congressional Black Caucus weekend. This is a very big weekend here in D.C., right? You have all of the who's who of the African American social, political, and entertainment culture get together. It is a very, very fun and engaging weekend in Washington, D.C. I have enjoyed it immensely, and it's like we've enjoyed it together. But more and more, I ask myself, how relevant really is the Congressional Black Caucus? And I come up with irrelevant. And my, if I, I'm open and would like to be re-educated on what the platform for the CBC or even the NAACP is, right? Because when I think of I think, what if right now those Congressional Black Caucus members who really all stick together and have no real vote, what if a clutch of them said, you know what? If they went to McCarthy and said, check it out, we'll bring 25 of us over here to the Republican Party, and if you put in these different things that we need, you'll have a super majority, and then you can implement this stuff, but you gonna also implement this stuff. What would happen then, or do you think something like that is possible? Are these folks interested in power?
That's never.
It's power. It's totally.
If it's power, then the power is in the votes.
I hate to tell you that a lot of it is, men power and egos and
sure.
But the other thing you talking about Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus is not based on party lines. So you never see the thing that's weird. You never see the Black Republicans.
Well, they when we were there. Tim Scott, senator from South Carolina, he didn't come out.
No,
he didn't come out.
I can't. No. Yeah, I can't. Now that you said it, I didn't really think about that.
That is whack.
Yeah,
I don't like that at all either. But I really, when we come back from our break, I really want to talk about this thing. I think we have to think outside the box, no matter who we are, of how we can make America better. 811 Crew talking about politics. We'll be back.
Be back.
811 Crew, we are having a great time, but we are talking about something serious. We are talking about race and politics and tension that we're all feeling in America, tension as we try to get along, try to create a more perfect union. And it seems like we're having a hard time doing that. It seems like the Democrats and Republicans are having a hard time doing that. It seems like people of color are having a hard time doing that. We're seeing progress. We're seeing challenges. My question is, now, what role does social media play in fanning these flames, y'all? Right? In other times, we've all throughout history, we know history repeats itself. We've had civil unrest, we've had civil wars, nuclear wars, etc., and that was all without the power of social media. What say y'all with the crew? What does social media and the algorithm have to do with fanning these flames?
It has almost 100% of the almost 100%, because I remember during the Biden-Trump election how you saw people arguing, cursing each other out, friends no longer being friends, and for me, people I grew up with stayed at their house. Their dad was my baseball coach and things. I never realized, being a Republican is fine, but I think when you're following someone who's kind of a narcissist and is, kind of a little crazy, and at the time I didn't really know a lot about Trump, and I had to get educated on him when he did the New York Five?
Central Park 5.
Central Park 5. How he did different things. The different the different things that he had done, because we knew Trump. He hung out with the rappers. He would be at Puffy's party.
Right, cool down.
He was cool, everything, and then
he was waxing Democratic back then.
Here we go with wax.
Well, he
was extending. He was trying to be on both sides.
Here we go. Wax on, wax off.
I'm telling you, look it up.
But he was asking about the social media, and I remember at the height of all of the election stuff leading up to the election, and you would go on and it was like polar opposite people online.
Oh my God!
There was one guy that I used to work with, and we were friends.
Yeah.
And the stuff he was putting up, I kept thinking, like, some of us were starting to text each other like, somebody
Is he
even
okay?
yeah, is
Yeah.
it? And somebody finally said, "Dude," like one of the black guys, he said, "Dude, are you okay?"
Right.
And then other people were like, "I thought I knew you, but I am unfriending you." It got really ugly
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
second.
right, yeah.
Then he comes back and says, "Oh, it was all a social experiment."
Well, you know what? And because what is happening is people are using social media, right? I think it's it's gone from commentary to weaponized opposition.
It's gone from being fun.
Yeah, it's being
It used to
it's
be- yeah,
weaponized.
weaponized,
Now
yeah.
you are seeking to destroy people with your words. You're seeking to malign them. You're calling people stupid. And I feel that one of the things that's so scary to me, right, is that the algorithm puts all of these crazies together.
Right.
In such a way that they never would have found each other as easily before. Like, for instance, I was thinking about this, right? Like, I bet that if you were to say that there were that you believe that there was a group of aliens from Mars living in the woods of Twinsburg, if you put that online, the algorithm, I promise you'd have 200 other people who said, I knew there were aliens in Cuyahoga. I knew there were aliens here in Ohio. So I feel like that, it's crazy.
It's the algorithms. It's people. I remember people I would see that would show up on my Facebook feed during election time.
Yeah.
I no longer see. I had to like search for them. Which brings me up to our poll question. Who we have Carmen here.
Hello.
Carmen.
And Carmen,
I'm back.
and she-
Now we know you can talk about Hoochie Daddy.
Who's your daddy short?
We know that you can go out and do some questions and polling about DC. But are you
Thanks.
ready to get into this racial and political divide?
Absolutely.
Talk to us.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So our original poll question is: have racial tensions increased over the last 40 years? And in saying that, is it based on politics or is it just based on race?
And the people have spoken.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like I know what this one's going to be.
I feel like everyone
I know,
does.
I know.
I feel like we know that the suspense is killing me.
I don't think so.
What
I
could
thi- I
it
thi-
be? What could it be?
I think we're gonna be
Shocked
shocked.
in awe. Okay. All right. 44% said no, which means
Oh.
56% said yes.
Oh,
Tell me what the no and yes. Let's be clear on what the no and the yes were again for the senior
racial
citizens.
tensions over
40.
40.
Have the tensions gotten larger, bigger? Has a spotlight got on them? So 44 said no.
44%.
56
said
said
no.
yes.
I
That
didn't
is a
expect
closer
that.
split. Okay.
I thought it was going to be like it's landslide
I'm
if it wasn't
surprised.
100%.
No, because
Wow.
if you think about when you say 40 years, if you had said 10 years,
But 40 years is like us little. Us
Yeah.
in, like that's
Right.
that's the 80s. That's like
So-
our high schooly time.
so during that, so has it gotten?
Yeah.
I'm not
And
sure
the-
we were aware of. I mean, we knew
Yeah,
that these
it
things
was
were happening.
happening, but
Body
it wa-
camera video really
Right.
and cell phone video
Yeah.
really
Right.
helped
So-
to pull the cover off
But
of these
see,
things.
no, I went to the University of Michigan, and we had these racial tensions, and the Today Show came to our school, Michigan and Brown, and did a live morning show on racial tensions and all the stuff that was happening. So
Now,
So-
see, and now,
Cincinnati-
right, and then conversely, down in Atlanta where I finished high school, we had Ronald Reagan come to address our high school, Northside High
Ew.
School. No, and I'm telling you,
No, but he
it
wa-
was one of the best days of my high school experience. And you know, if you remember Ronald, man, that brother could talk. Okay,
But he was-
he would
he
love
but
he was a different type of Republican.
He was an
You-
old
you
school.
were-
He would be.
Oh, he
looking-
could
you were
talk.
in high school. I was in college under him. So he also, I went 2 years on a financial aid that I could afford, and then he changed something. You can ask anybody that was in college; they will tell you he changed the laws so that my last 2 years I struggled.
Wow.
But he
Because
just-
because the
But he-
taxes and the
well,
financial aid was different.
What
Wow.
happened, what he did is basically he's the one who really messed up the middle class because
That was us.
so if you're middle,
Man, mess y'all up.
he messed up the middle
Right,
class,
and the mugs from West Virginia now don't
and-
remember that,
and
but
no
Manchin
one-
remembers that. That's why he's still a Democrat.
but people forget the things
Barely.
like one of the things like as you get when your parents get older, if they own a home and they want to go and they have to go to a facility, to a nursing
Assisted
home,
living, yeah.
they have to, unless it's already set up or it's the name on the house is on the with the child, you have to sell your house. He did those things. He was also, you can't claim your car taxes, the interest you pay on your car.
Yeah.
He stopped that for middle class, everything.
And
that's why I
I'm
don't-
telling you,
yeah.
the college financial aid, he
Yeah.
changed the rules,
Right.
and all of a sudden, I had loans.
Yep.
and stuff.
And that's why I don't call it.
Good
And
old
that's why I
Reaganomics.
still call it National Airport.
Exactly.
Period.
Look,
I
black
never-
people, when people come to town and they say, I'm flying into
Reagan.
I
I'm
said,
like,
no.
which?
I said, you need to know, black people in D.C. call it national.
And I don't understand why they
National
named
or
DCA.
DCA.
Period.
First of all, he fired the air traffic controllers.
Yeah.
Why did you name an airport after
Because the Congress could.
I'm like, he
because the
fired
Congress
them.
has naming authority.
But he was.
See, that's how them votes go.
Can I just say this? There is every black millennial knows this, and every brown millennial knows this.
I don't know
In
this.
Boondocks, in the first episode, he comes out onto a mic and says a lot of things, and the thing that comes out of his mouth is Ronald Reagan was the devil.
I
And
remember
that's
this.
been my
I
time.
remember.
Wow.
Thank you so much for having me, uncles.
I appreciate that.
We appreciate you.
And there
Peace,
goes
love,
and there's another
soul.
episode of something I need to
Peace,
watch.
Love and soul.
Remember to wear your black shirts.
Yes.
Quick question though, do I lose my black card if I've never really seen many episodes of Boondocks? Don't
Nah.
answer that. Okay, good. I don't lose.
But
it for that.
Boondocks is good.
I bet it
The
is
first
good.
season of Boondocks.
Oh.
I need a whiteboard list of stuff that I need to
You
see
haven't-
on
you-
a cross
Okay.
on a transatlantic
Dang.
voyage.
Uncle.
Anyway,
You need to watch the one where they do R. Kelly. And
Oh my God! Okay,
And
R.
you-
Kelly,
you-
he
you
is
what?
obsessed. I
You gotta
think
do
it's
one
time to
more
go,
thing.
Jason.
are we
I think
going
it's
on?
time to go.
Is it break time
Bye,
already?
y'all.
All right, we'll be back.
We'll be
11
back.
crew. 811 crew, and we are back
We're
to
back.
kind of conclude for now this discussion on race and politics. And this is such a concern to me, as we wrap this thing up, because going back from social media, I really also take this thing back to the money. When you look at the influence, I feel like the real genesis of this downslide was when Republicans voted that you could have unlimited, political action committees, unlimited PACs who could donate unlimited amount of money and not even have to disclose who's giving it. So you could have this something called America's Fund. And all we know is America's Fund has $100 million, but it doesn't have to say who the $100 million is from, etc. So you're going to these Congress people, and you're saying, listen, I'm going to give you $200,000 if you vote this way, or I'm going to give it to your competitor. When that type of money is going on, that is where I feel like that everything falls apart.
But one thing we did not mention, we talked about the two parties, but we didn't talk about independents. And independents are, and I know we're wrapping up, but independents, people consider themselves as independents.
They need to make a third party
Well, it's not that they need to make
because
a third
they get
party.
absorbed in one or the other and are part of the gridlock.
The problem is that people who say I'm an independent, you never know where they are.
Right.
Like make a choice. Like decide where you're going to be. Like it messes. It's like, are you not going to, either you're not going to vote or you're going to vote.
Yeah, and I'm really thinking, I really am, this is truly something we're going to come back to because politics and race is something that affects all of us. We have gotten into some really interesting topics, and we're not going to be able to cover all of this now. But, when we come back at another time, really, we need to talk about the influence of this money, how we can do it, maybe getting a third party, if there was a third political party, what that could do.
The Green Party.
And then finally, because of how technology feeds in, how are our enemies like China or Russia influencing social media and the algorithm to try to take us over in new ways, that by winning hearts and minds in ways that we didn't see. All that stuff we'll talk about, but let's talk about what's coming up on our next podcast, shall we now?
Yes.
All right. Now you want to talk to us about what we're going to be talking about?
Well, our next podcast, we're going to be talking about if you are over 50, do you feel financially secure? And if you're under 50, are you saving for your retirement?
So what we're talking about now, folks, is, we're getting good. We're going from politics to money. We're going to talk about money. And this is something that can be very tough to talk about. You're in your 50s. Folks think, are you over? If you're over 50, it's like I said, are you ready for retirement? We want to know what percentage of our audience feels like, they've got this thing covered. They've got their financial management program. They're on track, et cetera. And if you're under 50, we want to know what percentage of you are really getting ready for this. We're going to be talking dollars and cents on the next episode of 811 Crew. Hey, thanks a lot, y'all, for this political discussion and joining us. We're out.
We're out. And thank you.
Let's go, pick your feet up, though. Let's go, pick your feet up, though.